We've got 7 different stories to cover from 7 different media outlets. It is time for another premiere video of Regan's Newsround. Let's go, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Reganelite, and welcome to another premiere video of Regan's Newsround, where I cover 7 different stories from 7 different media outlets. The date and time of this recording is the 7th of February at around 14:53 p.m. UK time. The 7 stories that we'll be covering today will be, the first one will be from The Guardian, with the headline that parents are angry as councils prioritise a London hotel view over playground plan. The next one will be about Baroness Harman issues a warning to Labour MPs who set up a group over Reform UK's threat. That is from Sky News. The next one we'll be looking at is a losing Tory candidate has been accused of parading around as an MP. That's from the BBC, that one. The next one will be an exclusive from the iPaper with the headline that winter fuel payments won't be paid until spring to thousands of pensioners. That's not good at all. The next one will be from The Independent with the headline that Boris Johnson is one of the most damaging prime ministers in history, said Reform UK chairman. The next one will be from the Financial Times with the headline that ministers oppose around contract bids by Virgin and First Group. We'll talk about that when we come to it. Then finally, the last one will be from Valentines with the headline that Elon Musk is accidentally helping to raise thousands for progressive causes in the UK. We'll also have 2 intervals in between of funny videos as well. So let's get started with the first one here. Make sure you hit that like button and share across social media. And so if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing as well. Let's get going. So parents are angry as councils prioritise London hotel view over a playground plan. The Westminster Council pays £84,000 to all school designs that school designs cost, and then advises against going ahead. So they were happy with this playground plan originally. They didn't have an issue with it, and then all of a sudden it got turned down because allegedly, well, we haven't read the context of the story, but it looks as if some kind of hotel doesn't like its viewpoint for some reason, which is extremely distasteful in my view. It's bad enough the wealthy have enough things as it is, but who the hell cares about the views in London from a hotel perspective? Let's be very clear here. Most views, when you look out of a hotel, it's not very nice, not that great. And I've stayed in a few hotels not in cities and whatnot in my time. And to be honest, I couldn't give 2 hoots about the views, to be fair, because guess what? It's not really that fascinating, to be fair. Nothing really fascinating to look out the window, apart from the moving city. So I don't understand why this has been halted. It's just complete nonsense. It really is a nonsense. So let's read more into this, guys. So parents at a central London primary school say they feel let down and angry after local planning officers advised against a new playground, in part because it would harm the view of a nearby 5-star hotel. St Peter's School in Belgravia has only a small 170 square metre strip of play space for 200 pupils and sits minutes from Victoria Station in one of the densest corners of London. Yeah, and I've been through Victoria many times. It is very dense. Rebecca Bryant has led a 2-year process to build the playground, resulting in a design that would incorporate part of the road outside and close to through traffic. The road is quiet with busy traffic passing by at both ends, not cutting through, according to some parents, who say that even during rush hour and school drop-off, hardly any cars have drove up the road. The children desperately need the playground as many live in flats, Bryant has said. And this is absolutely true. They need to have a bit of space, especially in an urban area like the city. They need to have their own space to be themselves, sort of thing. I have given over 2 years of my time to try and get a new playground for this school. This is a lovely school and community, and they make the best of the space they have. But the impact of not having proper space to play is compounded by extremely deficiency in local playing and green space. Most of the children live in flats, and it's a mile to the nearest green space or tiny playground. Bryant helped fundraise £100,000 to pay for the design and the feasible studies, 84,000 of which came from Westminster Council itself through its community infrastructure levy. However, despite this, the council has advised against the playground going ahead, citing the protection of a view of the back of a Grade 2 listed Clarke-Smith hotel in Victoria, previously known as the Grosvenor, as one of the reasons. That's just okay. It's one of the reasons. Let's just be clear. In a pre-planning advice letter, for which parents paid more than £2,000, a planning officer, Max Leonardo, wrote, "The existing size of the school's playground is substandard. However, the proposed benefits would not outweigh the harm resulting in the loss of the public highway, and the disruption of the playground would cause to the townscape." He added, "The playground extension is considered to harm the character and appearance of the conversion area and of the Grade 2 listed Grosvenor Hotel. This harm is likely to be less than substantial. However, it would be at the upper end of this harm. Accordingly, such an application would not be viewed favourably." The letter also states the introduction of a netted sports court would contribute to a cluttered streetscape, and that the parking bays on Lower Baygrave Street and the single yellow lines provided for loading are well used and therefore would find their loss to be unacceptable. Benji 7, waiting to go to school, said he was desperate for more space to play. "Sometimes I go out of school and ask my friends if I can play, but there is nowhere for us to meet and we can't do it." He said he did his best to play football in the space they have. "We do penalties in one corner, and if we have a big playground, we could divert it up and there would be room for skipping, games, football, and then we could have St. Peter's football team." After there is anywhere with space for running, Benji suggested you could run around the block. His mother, Charlotte, said, "I have lived in Pimlico for 22 years. I've worked near here. My children are at school here. We want them at the school in their community, but they need space to play." Westminster Council told The Guardian the hotel view is not a primary concern or the reason that the council advised the proposed playground that it received planning permission. So this is what they're stating. "It would be lovely to extend the playground on the highway, but it simply isn't practical. This has been explained to parents on a number of occasions, including in writing following a formal approach. This is a busy area of central London, and the road is needed for traffic to access several office blocks, of which one is on a site allocated for the Crossrail to railway. There is no place for a playground." Bryant, however, said that this was completely untrue, and that the council had told the school that the playground would never be feasible. "If they had, they would have saved us, the public purse, a huge amount of money. These comments bear no relations to the formal advice we received." This is absolute. So they're saying one thing here, but beforehand they initially gave it the go ahead. So why they're saying now that there's no place for a playground when they initially said it was? Yeah, there's definitely something amiss here. Something tells me that the Westminster council was told not to do this, or were paid or something to make up a story. I think the council were bribed out of this, allegedly. Something, because they had no issue. They weren't really kicking off about. They would have not pushed ahead with. They would have said, "No, we can't do this, any of this whatsoever." They wouldn't have raised the money for this in the first place. The community wouldn't have raised the money for this in the first place. So I think that's really important. Last March, the Scrutiny Committee for the Department of Levelling Up, Housing and Communities held an inquiry into children and young people in the built environment. The MP Clyde Bates chaired the inquiry, which took evidence from architects and planning experts, as well as doctors and children's and play experts, on the lack of provision for children in planning. The committee disbanded before releasing its findings because of the general election. That said, it was clear children's needs should have better protections in planning. "We would have produced a scathing report if we had been able to. Children are almost forgotten. They are mentioned once in the National Planning Policy Framework. If we can't change this, then we're going to design an environment that is not fit for future generations." While Labour's policies has recently focused on removing red tape in the hurry to build more new homes, Best says this should not mean children should be pushed to one side. He says, "This is not about delayed planning. I'm passionate about building more homes, but we can't just have boxes on roads where its fault is cars in and cars out. Children's needs, their ability to move around and play, can't be an afterthought. We need to provide for them properly." White said the council's response shows a lack of consideration for children's needs, voices and experiences within the planning system. He added, "I am a civil servant with experience of delivering infrastructure projects, and I am ensuring that the planning and feasible studies were done to the highest standards. We analysed traffic. We showed that there would be very little impact, and we have the support of key neighbourhood groups. They have prioritised heritage and paid parking meters over health and well-being of local children. She pointed to a line in the planning advice and talked about people visiting the streets to enjoy the view. It says, the proposed loss of the public access to the land removes areas of which the public can appease views of the listed building. This is a dusty wall at the back of the hotel we are talking about. She added, we met Deidre Amsley, Director of Town Planning, in person, and she said she will look into it. And we have since emailed her 8 times and not had a single reply. Other senior councillors, including the leader of Westminster, Aban Doug, has not replied to us. Westminster Council did not respond to questions about the alleged lack of replies to the parents' emails. So it sounds like they're ignoring them here, this story. It does sound a lot like that they are ignoring this, or they're trying to get away from the implementation at the end of there. And it's very disappointing. And yes, when it comes to the planning of building more homes and all this kind of stuff, we have to make sure we have to think about the children in all this, their futures in this. And especially in London, there's not a lot of places for kids in London to have their own space. And they need to be provided that. It's a major issue. I'm sure this is not the only place in London doing so. I can't speak for outside of London. I'm sure you guys will have to have some says in other parts of England and whatnot. But it's definitely a cause for concern. You know, children are the future. We want to make sure that we give them everything that they possibly can. And hopefully that something will come forward at some point for them. I really hope so. The next story I've got for you guys is from Sky News. The headline is Baroness Harman issues a warning to Labour MPs who set up a group over Reform UK threat. So the Labour peer tells the Electoral Dysfunction podcast that the danger of forming internal party groups is that they risk implying the government is being ineffective in certain areas. Well, it's true, is it not? They are being ineffective, and we know they're being ineffective because their social media and their lack of communication when it comes to things, quite frankly, sucks. And we've said, many YouTubers, influencers have said, Labour's communications is crap. It is crap because they're not getting the message from the British public. That's why they're very much hated right now. Not just the policy decisions they make, but their lack of communication, the lack of the way it comes across as well. It's not been very feasible either. And as for like internal party groups, there's always internal party groups within political parties. There's loads within Conservative. I'm sure there's some internal parties within Greens and Lib Dems, and Labour is no different. Hell, there already are different parties and different groups setting up inside Labour. But they're supposed to be all united by getting behind Labour. That is supposed to be the joint thing. But it doesn't mean to say that they always agree on everything either. And Reform UK are a threat to Labour. Let's be very, very clear about that. And they want to make sure that the Labour government itself are prioritising whatever it needs to counter the increasing threat of Reform UK. And the truth is they are a threat. So let's read a bit more into it. So the Labour MP who set up a pressure group to counter the threat of Reform UK has been warned that they risk promoting factionalism. So Baroness Harman, the former deputy leader of the Labour Party, said setting up the group was so problematic because it gives the impression that those involved did not believe the leadership was being effective on a particular issue. Well, isn't that the whole point? Like, I don't have a problem. I honestly do not have a problem with a pressure group like this. I really don't. Speaking on the Electoral Dysfunction podcast with Sky's political editor Beth Reeves, the Labour peer said, I think it's problematic for 2 reasons. So firstly, because if you set up a group whose reason is formation is to press the government to do something, the implementation is the government is not doing it. Well, yes, the government is clearly not doing it if they believe that they don't think it's doing it. And therefore, if you set up a group who's wanting the government to be effective on immigration, then you're immediately suggesting to your voters and your constituents that they're right, that they're thinking that the government's not doing enough. So I think it has the reverse effect of what they're proposing for it. Well, the voting. Well, obviously she's not paid attention to polling numbers because quite clearly Labour are not popular right now. So Labour are clearly not listening to people, so they're setting up a pressure group to try and change that. That's the whole point. The informal coherence of Labour MPs who make up the new group is drawn from 89 constituencies where Nigel Farage's party came second to Labour at the July general election. One of the MPs involved told Sky News it was an important signal of where things are heading, and that the members would shout about the need to do more in migration and for tangible local delivery. We're a fearless bunch, the MP said. adding that the group was not afraid to call a spade a spade. The Mrs. Harman, who represents the constituency of Camberwell and Peckham for nearly 40 years before standing down in 2021, said that she was worried about factions within government. She highlighted how the previous Conservative government struggled with the 5 families of internal groups, such as the Brexit Supporting European Research Group and the Northern Research Group, which put pressure on the government to meet its manifesto commitments of levelling up to the nation and region. The point is, we don't want regionalism, she said. We don't want tax fascism and all these different tribes. Well, I'm sorry, but when you have a massive political party that has over 400 MPs, you're going to have things like that. It's just natural that a huge number of people within one party are going to have some kind of factions of their own. For her to say that they shouldn't be doing this is nonsense. I'm sorry. I think it's fair enough to have a women's group of MPs or a Labour group of MPs or a coastal town group of Labour MPs. But I think to set up a group with the idea that the government is somehow not delivering on what it should be doing, I think that's bad. No, I respectfully disagree. So you continue. So my suggestion to the rebel group is to be careful not to tip into anything that might look like factual terrorism. They've only just been elected as Labour MPs. They should support the government and play their part in Parliamentary Labour Party and don't set up all these flipping groups. Saying that, first of all, like, we've been, more than 10 months now? More than 10 months since they've been in power now. Like, we're more than half a year now on that. So it's not, no, to suggest that they've only been elected MPs is no, we've moved on from that now. We're already just a couple of months away from being the first year or so. So to suggest that is nonsense. Like, they're embedded now. They're in their positions. They know what's going on. I firmly disagree with Baroness Harman about these groups because clearly, Labour are not paying attention to what the public are saying, are not paying attention to what some of their MPs are saying. And if you're not going to listen and pay attention to what's happening around them and simply just carry on trucking along like everything's okay when it's not, then you need to have groups like these to pressure the government into doing what is necessary. So I'm totally in disagreement with her on this. These kind of groups are important. And I really do hope that they pressure this government into doing more. And the polls speak for themselves about where Labour is right now. The polls speak for themselves. People are not thinking of voting Labour at the next general election. And we are only, a couple of months away from the local elections. And they're going to get a hammering if they don't show some signs in the next few months. So that's my position on it. The next one I got for you guys is a very interesting one from the BBC. So a losing Tory candidate accused of parading around as an MP. This is Brendan Clarke-Smith, apparently. So a former Conservative minister who lost his seat at last year's general election has been accused of continuing to parade around as an MP by the leader of the House of Commons. Why is he parading around still as an MP? Like, here's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't know if Jonathan Gullis still parades as an MP, but he's more of a nuisance more than anything because he won't get a job. Or that he can't get a job, or he's looking for a lobbying group to take him on board or something. But hence why he probably hasn't got a job at the time of this recording. No teachers want to take him on, schools want to take him on board as a former teacher as well. Because some of the language that he said is just not appropriate, But this is very odd. I think I need to read. We should read into this before saying any more. So Brendan Clarke-Smith, who was a children's minister under Boris Johnson and the MP for Basingstoke from 2019 until July last year, when Labour's Joe White won the seat. So more than 6 months later, White has complained that Clarke-Smith's former constituency office is still displaying his title as MP, as well as the official politics logo of the House of Commons. Commons leader Lucy Powell said she was appalled by the allegations, but Clarke-Smith dismissed them as daft. Former constituency, so he's still displaying the title as MP. Okay. He told the BBC he had handed back the keys to his office in November, The landlord will be replacing the sign when the new tenant is found. The issue was raised by the Commons by White, who asked what action can be taken when the previous MP continues to promote themselves in the constituency when they've lost their seat, retaining the Polonius insignia and title in their publicity. Responding, Lucy Powell said the matter takes the matter very serious indeed and would be checking on reports to the housing authorities and the Standard Commissioner. She said, I'm really appalled to see some of the evidence she sent about her predecessor effectively parading around as her constituency as an MP, or shadow MP, or other things that don't exist, and making use of the Podrick symbol, which is absolutely against the protocol for its use. So this is posters displaying political attacks on the Labour government have been put up in the windows since the election when Clarke-Smith lost as an MP there. White told the BBC he's the only election loser in the country who is reminding people daily they didn't vote for him. My constituents are telling me they want it taken down. Well, it's over time for him to get over it and move on. Election loser. The former MP's office has a bright blue sign running the length of the building that reads Brendan Clarke-Smith MP, Member of Parliament for Basildon, and is flanked by either side of large podicons topped with the crown, which is the accepted emblem of Parliament. The window of his office door is displaying more than a dozen political posters attacking White for the Labour government's winter fuel allowance cuts, which must have been put up inside the office since the election. Clarke-Smith dismissed the complaints as a bit of a whinge, and no one is pretending to be an MP. It's an empty office which has got the signs up still. I think the thing is that she doesn't like that it's got a big picture of my face on it, which is very visible as you drive into town, he said. When someone moves in there and it becomes a cafe or whatever, they will rip that off. I don't think I'm authorised to. I think she just expects me to disappear, and politics doesn't quite work like that. When asked about the posters attacking the Labour government in the window, he said, somebody's probably left it in there. If they were posters back from the general election, like, here's the thing, what is he supposed to do? If he sold the property, what, can't really, what can they possibly do here? He said his office has formerly been a clothing store and had been empty for about a decade, with the original sign reading the Schoolwear Centre above the door when he moved in. Ironically, Joe White was deputy leader of the council and responsible for regeneration for many years, he added. Clarke-Smith said MPs no longer had to clear out their offices and take down signs during elections because it was costing a huge amount of money. Following every election, there is a 4-month period where former MPs move out of offices, make staff redundant and pay final bills, known as wash-up. And Clarke-Smith said, I think most MPs have just closed their offices. He also criticised White for using her time in the Commons to complain about him, saying there are many more important local issues, including flooding and a new Action and Emergency Department. The pair also clashed during the last election when Clarke-Smith reported White to the Standards Commission for an offer of visits to Parliament, although the complaint was not upheld. The House of Commons and Standing Committee were approached for comment. This is very interesting. I'm not quite sure, literally what you can do. It does feel a lot like a tit for tat, really. This whole situation. Brenda. Yeah, this was last summer. There, So clearly, this is still. My understanding is that I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, wow, that's quite sticking out, isn't it? Well, the thing is, if he's gone from it and he doesn't control it or own it anymore, you can't blame him for this. If he's already given up the keys and everything's all done and dusted. So, I'm not sure what you can do in this situation. I mean, it is absolute. I get it, guys. It's absolute nonsense that this guy has literally his name right there in sticking out like a sore thumb with the crest and all that as the MP, when clearly he's not. It is very misleading to the constituents as well. I totally get that. But what are they supposed to do? Literally, what is supposed to be done in this situation? I know, frustrating. What is also frustrating is the winter fuel payments in this exclusive from the iPaper. So winter fuel payments won't be paid until spring to thousands of pensioners. So probably some of them are already dead by now because of that. A surge in applications for pension credit after the government restricted winter fuel payments led to a backlog of 92,000 claims. 92,000. I hope they're okay. I hope too many. Now, it is early February at the time of this recording, and I haven't recalled, and I have not recalled a I've not recalled a story where a pensioner has died as a direct result of the actions of this government restricting winter fuel payment. Yet, that could still change. But still, the fact that they won't get paid until spring means that they have to basically survive winter basically. And yeah, it's a nonce. I know. I hate what they've done with the winter fuel payment thing because it just really just sticks into the face of. It just feels it feels like austerity what they're doing with it. But they say they're trying to balance the books. That's their angle. That's their argument to it, you guys. So thousands of pensioners are in need of financial help to pay their heating bills in the cold weather is set to have to wait until spring for the winter fuel payment. A huge backlog of 74,000 claims for pension credit, which entitles the poorest older people to have winter fuel payment, will take more weeks to clear, the iPaper has learned. At this rate, there will still be thousands of pensioners who applied before the deadline waiting for their winter fuel payment into spring, said Devon Gandhi, director of an analytics firm, Policy in Practice. The most vulnerable pensioners have faced a grim winter, cutting back on food or turning their heating down as they wait on the result of their pension credit claim, the charity said. Rachel Reeves decided to scrap universal winter fuel payments shortly after Labour's election victory last July, as the government is looking to plug a reported £22 billion black hole in public finances. The government's limited the energy bill, worth £200 to £300 per household, to those in recipients of means testing benefits, including pension credit. Sir Keir Starmer has encouraged older people struggling with energy bills to apply for the pension credit, which is a top-up available to those who cannot get on the lowest state pension levels. The government has promised to all those who apply by the 21st of December deadline will still receive a backdated winter fuel payment if their pension credit claim was successful. It left the Department of Work and Pensions DWP with a massive surge in claims. Some 150,000 people applied in the 16 weeks after Reeves' announcement, a 145% increase from the previous 16 weeks. The backlog of pension credits soared to 92,400 by the 23rd of December, according to Pensions Minister Torsten Bell. Despite progress in cutting down the caseload, the DWP staff were still dealing with a pile-up of 74,000 as of the 13th of January, said Bell. Gandhi warned that it could take until April to clear the backlog, leaving some without the winter fuel payment of around 2 months after the end of winter. The benefit expert that said its staff were reducing the backlog by around 6,000 claims a week during the end of December and early January, and it could take another 12 to 13 weeks to clear. The DWP announced in November that 500 extra staff have been deployed to help work through the surge in applications. It looks like that they could get through the backlog by the end of April if, and it's a big if, they keep additional staff in place, said Gandhi. Policy and practice partners at local authorities have told the firm that some applications have taken between 3 to 6 months to assess. However, more recent ones are in the process within a few weeks. Sir Steve Webb, the former Liberal Democrat pension minister, also estimates the backlog could take months to resolve. He said the government could break the back of the caseload by the end of March, based on reducing it by somewhere between 6,000 and 700 cases a week. Getting it down to somewhere between 15,000 and 30,000 cases will probably be treated as normal, steadily state kind of caseload, said Sir Steve, now a partner at financial services firm LCP. The DWP has a target of 50 working days, around 10 weeks, to resolve someone's pension credit claim. The latest figures showed the average waiting time peaked at 87 working days, around 17 weeks in early December. They have since come down to just under 50 days. Statistics released at the end of January also shows that just over 61,000 of the outstanding pension credit claims were made before the 21st December deadline for accessing the winter fuel payments. So Steve said many anxious applicants would have to wait until next month for a decision, while some complex cases might take even longer. It is plausible that the typical person who applied just before the deadline will have to wait until into March to get a decision. Caroline Abrams, charity director at Age UK, said she had recently spoken to the DWP official about the push to cut the caseload, and she was told the backlog was now coming down quite quickly. But she added it's still a lot of people to get through, though. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes another couple of months. In the meantime, Age UK has to help some of the most desperate pensioners. We know people who still apply in December who are still waiting, said Abrahams. If you're waiting 2 or 3 months or more for your winter fuel payment, it's too late for some who have already really struggled this winter. Some people have told us that they have not been running their heating much, not using hot water or having showers, cutting back on groceries. It's grim stuff. Basic necessities that people are supposed to have, and they're cutting back on all of these in order to save for their bills. It's disgusting, it's wrong, it's revolting, and we know it. People should be able to, if people need to have a shower or a bath, they should be able to have it. If people need to turn on the tap to brush their goddamn teeth, they should be able to do that. If people should be able to get the basic necessity of needs, like groceries, the basics of milk and bread, they should be able to get them. It's outrageous that some of these people are having to make these cutbacks. Outrageous. The suddenness of the Treasury's announcement meant that there was bound to be this backlog and long delays. It was the Treasury's fault for not gifting everyone enough time to prepare. Yeah, it was blatantly stupid of the Chancellor. It was blatantly stupid of the Treasury when they made this decision to think about the consequences and actually plan how they were actually going to do this, instead of just not thinking about the literal consequences of the people who are going to suffer as a direct result of this. Dennis Reeves, director of campaigner group Silver Voices, blamed Reeves' decision for the chaos and said some people are not going to get their winter fuel payments until after the winter is over. Baroness Harman, a former Conservative pension minister who campaigns on issues affecting older people, said it has been a terrible mistake to end universal winter fuel payment. The peer said she was pleased the pension credit claim backlog was being reduced, but it still leaves tens of thousands without the money they needed to pay their energy bills this winter. Giving them money after the cold weather is over cannot undo any health or lifestyle damage this has been caused. The Treasury estimates that more targeting test meeting winter fuel payments would save around £1.4 billion a year, with Starmer saying in November that the cut makes sense and many previously claiming were relatively wealthy. Pension credit applications are almost 50-50 chance of getting the benefit. Recent figures suggest between April and December, some 92,000 claims were rejected, while 91,000 were successful, according to data from the Freedom of Information request. The government says all eligible claims to pension credit can still be backdated by 3 months and is worth an average 4,200, so we continue to urge everyone eligible to apply. We have deployed around 500 additional staff to support processing applications. We have seen a 51% increase in the number of cleared claims since the Chancellor's announcement. Yes, that's all well and good, guys. And don't get me wrong, that's all well and good, the staff to help support this backlog. But this could have all been avoided. And this £1.4 billion a year they're saving is nowhere near the amount to the black hole that they kept banging on about. And I think we talked about it at the time, and one or two stories were saying that this was that the Treasury was basically telling the Chancellor to do this. This wasn't a decision. The Treasury were telling the Chancellor to do this because they were tired of, because they don't want any kind of universal system, that everyone gets the same and that everything should be means tested. Now, there are some cases where things should be means tested, but is winter fuel payment for pensioners, is it right that it should be means tested? Is it right that it should be universal? And the thing is, for me, is that a lot of people will have died or will just not have the money anymore as a direct result of this action. Those who actually need it. Those who don't need it is fine, but there will be a lot of people who do need it and will die sadly as a result of it, guys. And my heart really does go out to those people. Right, so we're about 34 minutes in at the time of this recording. We have 3 more articles to go through. As you guys know, just want a heads up before I play the funny video. I have got a sore throat, so maybe wondering why I'm not kind of a bit more actic than I normally am. So I am trying to mitigate my voice a little bit in that, guys. So do bear with me as I get through this. But thank you guys so much who have watched so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this funny video that I've got for you guys. This one is from Nerding Skinner Comedy. Link for it will be down below, with the headline at Pet Peeves with Rachel Reeves. She is so good at this Rachel Reeves role. It's just hilarious. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to Pet Peeves with Rachel Reeves. This week I'm mainly peeved with Keir Starmer's voice. Apparently he broke lockdown rules to have voice lessons. Well, even if he did break the rules, the voice lessons didn't work. The voice coach had to be there in person because he's so rubbish, and now he still sounds really dull and boring and his delivery is so dry. I wish I could have been his voice teacher, then he could sound like me. Keir Starmer can go in the peeve bin. I'm also peeved with the markets. They're meant to be growing more than this. They're being slow to spite me. I even learned how to do calculations on my one-day online accounting course, and I learned how to do big spreadsheets, including the sum function. So markets can go in the peeve bin. I'm also peeved with the lead up to Valentines Day and public displays of affection. Oh, I love you. Kiss, kiss, kiss. What is touching? I haven't been touched in 14 years, and even then it was because I dropped a sandwich down my chest and my dog went mental. PDA can go in the peeve bin. Finally, I'm peeved with people saying that I'm boring. Well, this is for you, a fun unknown fact. Did you know that the man who made Trebor mints is actually called Robert, and he put his name backwards to make Trebor, so it's just a backwards name? See, a fun fact with fun Rach. Goodbye.
She's not very entertaining, is she? Rachel Reeves. Oh, the Nerding Skinner is so good with her little pet peeves. Guys, just before I go to the next article, like I said, I do have a sore throat, so do bear with me. But if you want to support me, make sure you hit that like button, share across social media, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also join the YouTube membership for as little as 99p for exclusive perks and access. You can also leave super chats if you want to during the premiere video as well. You can also buy me a coffee, link for that is in the description. And do feel free to check out the Patreon and Rumble content. Links to them in the description. There is also a free Discord community that you can join as well. All the links for other social medias and whatnot are down in the description below. Thank you very much for listening. Let's crack on with the next story, guys. This one is from The Independent. I'm just going to point out that I do have a locket in my mouth, so I'll try not to, just to help with my throat, guys. So do bear with me on this. So Boris Johnson is one of the most damaging prime ministers in history, Reformed UK chairman says. So the ex-Tory MP accused of betraying those who voted for Brexit as Nigel Farage's party claim it can win 400 seats at the next general election. Let's not see him moving around anymore if we can help it. Was Boris Johnson one of the most damaging prime ministers in history? It really is a toss-up between him, Sunak, and Liz Truss. Now, if you're one of those morons that actually thinks Keir Starmer was worse than these three prime ministers, then you are an absolute dumbass who's not been paying attention to politics. Don't get me wrong, Keir Starmer has his problems, but Boris Johnson is a proven liar. Boris Johnson set the tone and changed the way prime ministers behave in number 10 when he came into power. He's the one who just caused the most surreal damage, I think, and everyone else has kind of followed suit since then, except Keir Starmer. Yes, Keir Starmer has not always been. He's a lot more sensible and has much more safer pair of hands with that power than the last three prime ministers, I will say. But is he one of the most damaging prime ministers in history? I'd probably say yes. Over Brexit, yeah, because Brexit has been an absolute disaster. So I think on that, we're probably going to slightly agree with Reform UK's chairman on this. Well, let's be very, very clear. They would not provide a better Brexit reform. They claim they would, but that's because they're sitting on the outside. So Boris Johnson was one of the most dangerous prime ministers in this country's history, according to the chairman of Nigel Farage's Reform UK. Zinedine Youssef also said the disgraced ex-MP, found to have deliberately lied and lied again to Parliament over Partygate, would not be welcome to his party. He also accused Mr Johnson, one of the architects of Brexit, of betraying those who voted for it. Do I just get this possible feeling that perhaps Nigel Farage asked him to put this out there? Simply, do you get this feeling that perhaps Nigel is feeling, a tad bit jealous of Boris? Not only was he a former Prime Minister, but he actually got to sit in the inauguration room when Trump was elected as well. Do you think that might be one of the reasons why he's feeling a bit aggrieved? In an interview with BBC Radio 4 Political Thinking podcast, he said, "History will judge Boris Johnson as one of the most dangerous prime ministers in this country's history. The rise in net migration during Boris Johnson's time in power was a total betrayal of everybody who voted for Brexit," he said. "He took the public spending closer to the Soviet Union spending, so there was nothing conservative about him." He also branded the Tories an extremely left-wing party in government. He also said that Home Secretary Suella Braverman would be welcomed in Reform UK. However, claiming that she had been excommunicated and made a pariah by the Conservatives. Mr Yusuf also claimed that his party, which is surging in the polls, could win hundreds of MPs at the next general election. At the moment, as of right now, I don't discredit that option that they could win up to 100 MPs at the next general election. They came second in a lot of places. In a blow to Kemi Baganott's Tories, the latest poll suggests that as many as a third of their voters from the 2024 election have switched to Reform UK. According to the weekly tracker by Tetchy UK for The Independent, 33% said they voted for Tory last year, now back in Mr Farage's party. And Reform UK are now a joint top of the polls for the first time, putting it in line with YouGov poll earlier this week. Mr Farage described the latest polls as astonishing, just a day after he had launched a campaign to reverse the Labour decision to cancel local elections contests for millions this May. The crisis in support for the Conservative Party comes amid apparent splits at the top of the Shadow Justice Secretary and leadership contender runner-up Robert Jenrick refusing to rule out a deal with Reform, while a spokesperson for Miss Bagonot insisting it wouldn't happen. The Tory leader has also launched a hardline immigration policy to discourage low-paid workers from coming to the UK in an apparent bid to counter the threat from the far-right poised by Reform. Yeah, that's not going to stick. But the poll results will do nothing to stop the growing whispers about Miss Bagonot's leadership within her party, with a little over 3 months since she was elected. I think the local elections will speak a lot about Kemi and her role as leader. Like, if they don't show signs that public are backing the Conservatives in the local elections, the Conservatives in particular, then I think more people will turn on her. The pressure will come at the local elections, because that's when Kemi will really need to show something, because at the moment people are not buying what she's selling, and she's just talking a lot of twaffle. This policy that Chris Phillips came out on the Conservatives' behalf just wasn't really buying into it. It's just wasn't feeling it. It's because it's just another immigration one. It's just like, you can't beat Reform on this. You can't counter Reform. You're trying to beat them on this, and it's just not working. But as for Boris Johnson, yeah, I think it's fair to say he is one of the most damaging prime ministers that we've ever had in our history. I think that's very true, guys. There's a very interesting story from the Financial Times we got here. So ministers oppose a rail contract bids by Virgin and First Group. So the Transport Department has concerns about applications by private operators to compete with nationalised networks. So what is this about? So I think I haven't read into this. So before we read into this, I'm getting the impression that this is about, can we carry on doing what we're doing without, can we just compete with you for contracts, government instead? Instead of you guys actually taking us over and kicking us out because we really like our jobs and we really like our big fat paychecks that we get from running the rail lines, can we keep them instead of giving them to you? Can we do that instead, pretty please? That's exactly what it feels like to me. The likes of Virgin and First Group here, I think they want to keep on top of keep what they have, and yeah, government should basically say no. Your contracts are going to run out, and we're going to take control of the rail lines, and we're going to have Great British Railway back. Now, like I said, when it first started, I'm all for this, nationalising the rail industry and bringing it back into the government's hands. How successful it will be, I don't know. How much will it bring down fares and better train times, better schedules, better things? I don't know. It's going to take a while. I know people don't like that. I know people don't have patience, but it's going to take a while to build up Great British Rail and its industry as well. So it will take some work to do so, but at least it'll be in the hands of the government instead of in the hands of private industries. That's for sure. So ministers are pushing to stop Sir Richard Branson's Virgin Group and other private operators from opening new services to compete with Labour's nationalised railway. The government is opposed to 8 of the 9 current applications by private train operators to launch services that run alongside the publicly owned main passenger rail network, according to the Department of Transport letter published on Friday. We have significant concerns over abstention of revenue from contracted operators and the unreasonable burden that this is in turn placed upon taxpayers, said the letter disclosed by the Office of Rail and Road, the industry regulator. Labour has set out plans to bring major rail services back into public ownership under the government's new Great British Railway operator as an existing licences expire. But companies including Virgin Group and London-listed First Group have laid out plans for new open access train services, where private operators pay to run trains on all public rail lines. The rail regulator giant open access licenses where it judges that a route is underserved by the main operators, who are given major contracts by the Transport Department to run key passenger rail service. Successful examples of such open access routes including Heathrow Express, Hull Trains and Lumino. Virgin hopes of a return to UK rail network through opening new services in the West Coast Main Line linking London to cities including Liverpool, Birmingham and Glasgow. The DfT said in its letter it has particular concerns about Virgin's application, which it estimates would abstain £110 million of revenue from existing operators. The letter also said the government would also take over space on the West Coast Main Line that would be needed in the future by HS2. And the current operator Avani West Coast, which has been taken over by the government at the end of this parliament. The DfT has also opposed 5 applications from First Group to open new open access service, including on its existing Lumino service between London and Scotland and 2 by Arriva. It says it supports in principle an application by the French train maker Alstom to run services between Wrexham and London. The DfT has said we support that we're supportive of open access services which can encourage growth, improve connectivity and provide more choice for passengers. But these benefits must outweigh the cost of the taxpayer and impact to network performance. So, the idea that this is all going to be nationalised probably is not what we initially thought it was going to be. At least that's what my interpretation was, is that these companies would be completely pushed out and that everything would be under the government's hands. That doesn't look like we're going to be having that, does it? I don't like it. I think they should be pushed out completely because, for me, for a long time, the interpretation for them is all about making money. And they have a very good system in place. And they know that as long as they're in the system, they will be making money. I don't see them ever being a part of this and making a loss. They know that as long as they are working in part with the government, they can make a profit off this. Personally, I think that ministers should oppose any kind of bids by any of these contractors and put them all new and fresh under government ones. That's my personal opinion. But whether they will or not is up to them. But it is more food for thought, that is for sure, guys. The last story I've got for you guys, a very interesting one here from Valentines. So Elon Musk is accidentally helping to raise thousands for progressive causes in the UK. Campaigners claiming it to be turning his own tweets into a weapon against the far right. This is technically true. So what do you mean, Regan? How is what he's doing causing this? Well, when he talks about attacking like trans communities or attacking a certain group or party or well-being, especially when the fact that especially by the fact that how can I put this? He's not very well liked by some people. he has said some pretty horrible things. He has done certain symbols, with his hands, gestures with his hands and arms that he should not have made. His language has not been helpful, and the fact that he's not been elected in any way, shape, or form by America or the UK for that matter, and trying to claim that he knows things better, because he has such a massive microphone in X, he's actually causing opposite effects. So in fact, where he thinks that he's helping, he's actually backfiring on him in some causes. So, and we'll see some examples here in this piece from Valentines. So in a way, Elon Musk, while he is obviously problematic, he's still a problem. And we know he's a problem because we hear all the time what's going on in America. It's absolutely horrifying. But it can also have the counter effect. I mean, Tesla's stock shares has not been doing very, very well for quite a while as well. So activists said they have tricked Elon Musk into helping raise thousands of pounds for causes he hates in a new online campaign. The People vs. Elon campaign, launched on Sunday morning, collects micro donations for UK organisations campaigning for immigrants, anti-racism and LGBTQ plus rights every time Elon Musk tweets. Each time Donald Trump's efficiency to star Musk's posts on X, people have pledged to donate to give money to progressive causes. And comes a day after the world's richest man performed what is rightly recognised as a Nazi salute at Donald Trump's inauguration, with Musk posting frequently, doubling to 4,000 tweets last month. The new People's vs. Elon campaign is projected to raise over £14,000 this year, on pledges as small as 1p per tweet. Elon Musk has used Twitter to amplify hate. Well, we're turning every tweet into a weapon against the far right, says the People's vs. Elon spokesperson. Every time he tweets the far right talking points, we will trigger 100 of small donations to groups fighting for a just and welcoming UK. The funds raised are being donated evenly between organisations such as Everyday Racism, Hope Not Hate, Women for Refugees Women, People vs. Profiteers and Rainbow Migration, a non-profit which provides support for LGBTQI+ people seeking asylum. Musk has been increasingly tweeting his 200+ million followers on X about the politics in Britain and Europe, and including calls to free Tommy Robinson, and just days before his salute, tweeted, "Make Europe great again." So here's a screen grab of the People's vs. Elon campaign. Here it is. Let's turn every single tweet Elon Musk sends into a weapon against the far right. Pledge as little as 1p every time he tweets, and we'll turn his hates into support for anti-racist immigrants and trans people there. So every time you give 1p, you're asking for 1p. Now it can make a big difference, guys. That's great. I like this. Naomi Evans of the UK anti-racism platform Everyday Racism says, "As teachers, we see firsthand the impact of the far-right rhetoric on social media and dangerous commentary from the likes of Elon Musk. We are working every day to counter it. People vs. Elon is an antidote to his lies. Thousands of micro-donations that will help groups like ours to counter hate." Celia Arnold, a Women for Refugee Women, added, "Elon Musk demonstrates refugees and amplifies misogynists like Andrew Tate, but polling shows a majority of British public don't like Elon and his new friends. Now we're seeing the British people put their money where their mouth is, standing with women and refugees." The campaign was inspired by hashtag defeat by tweets, which raised over 12 million in response to Donald Trump's election campaign in 2020 and 2024. People vs. Elon donors have pledged to up to an average of £13.62 a month. One donor has pledged up to £93 a month. For that support to donate £93 at 2p per tweet, Elon Musk would have had tweeted 4,650 times. Over 100 regular pledges have signed up already, according to the group. "We can't let the richest man in the world poison our politics," says the Azana, CEO of Rainbow Migration. He's seeking to demonetize trans people and refugees as he continues to amass records wealth. Those people know their problems are caused by wealthy hoarders and hate mongers, not trans people or people seeking safety. Georgia Lamy, director of campaign group Hope Not Hate, drew attention to Musk's role in shifting UK politics to the far right. And since buying X, Elon Musk has done more than just tweet. He has amplified far-right politics, spread harmful disinformation, and called for Stephen Yaxley Lennon, that's Tommy Robinson, to be released from prison. History has shown us that fascism can be defeated, but only when people come together and take collective action. This is what we must do today. and there's a link for it here. I'll try and put that in the description for you guys as well, the link for it if you want to take part in it. Although I can understand if some people listening to this no longer are on Twitter, which I totally understand that premise as well. But I think this is great stuff. I like how they've turned a man who spews hatred and misogyny and whatnot, and are using it actually every time he does into something noble instead, to raise causes for good campaigns, for good groups out there who do wonderful work. It is a crying shame that we rely on these groups for those who need it. I do say, and I want to stress that I do appreciate and value these people who do these works. I really, really do. But they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to have these situations. But unfortunately, this is the world that we live in. Unfortunately, I do still use Twitter and X, but I never tweet about politics. To be fair, I might do the odd retweet, but that's about it. But I don't get into discussions on Twitter. Same with even on my comments. I'm very skeptical of going into comments, too many comments. I mean, I will respond to comments by members, but I won't get into a massive engagement with somebody on my comments on YouTube, because it's not worth it, to be fair. But guys, we've come to the end of Regan's Newsround, but just before we go, I've got one last funny video for you guys. Speaking of Elon Musk, did you know that Elon Musk has his own robots, guys? Oh, no, you didn't. Allow me to show you. And our good friend Garen is going to explain as well.
An army of fucking robots, Elon. Why the fuck are we letting them do this? Oh, they're going to pick up your packages and water your plants. Will they fuck? Look at him. He's fucking miserable. They're going to attack. And they'll definitely start with Ireland. Everybody fucking does. Look, he's built like a fucking shit brick house. And he makes fucking tea. They're definitely going to team up with the English. We're fucked. Looks like a decent cup of tea as well. This one is wearing a cowboy hat. He looks absolutely darling in it, to be fair, but I'm still fucking terrified of him. He doesn't have any wrists. What are you fucking planning? Why don't you need wrists? This is a terrible idea, Elon. They're not just going to water plants and make fucking tea. If that's what they were going to do, why did you give them muscles and no face? And another thing, why does it have the same beard as a rapper from the early 2000s? That needs answering. Follow me, I'm delicious.
Not as funny as some of these other ones, to be fair, but still. Do check out Garen music, guys. He can be every now and then. I've just got to bring up an old one or whatever just for laughs, because he is funny. It can be funny as hell, guys. So what did we make of some of the stories that we covered here on Regan's Newsround? Let me know your thoughts and more down in the comment section below, guys, on all the stories that we covered here. And just a reminder, if you are a YouTube member, you get emojis of these people behind me, guys. If I could just show you. So these are the gang that you get behind me. These are my compadres, you can say. Ollie the Octopus, Blaze the Charmander Pokemon, Pingu the Penguin, and Kashami the Cookie Monster there, as well as the Orb, which has been turned off, and the Lava Lamp, which for some reason still hasn't formed for some reason. So yes, you get emojis of all them if you are a YouTube member. But guys, thank you so much for watching. As I said, leave some feedback down below. But just before I go, if you haven't already, hit that like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share this across social media. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing as well. All that stuff supports the channel. And like I said, if you want to go one step further, financially support me and the work that I do, you could become a YouTube member. And you could also check out the Patreon and Rumble for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching. And I hope to catch you all very, very soon.